fall camp and let those guys go out and compete. And Timmy will, when we go out today for the first practice this evening, Timmy would go with the ones all day today, and Gary would go with the twos all day. And then tomorrow morning when we have the next practice, Gary would go with the ones all practice, and Timmy would go with the twos all practice. And we'll alternate that, for whatever it is, the first 10 or 11 practices. And then whenever we have our first scrimmage on, I believe, Saturday, August 13th, we're going to be grading everything that they do, every throw that they make, and all their decision making. And we're going to be watching them over those next, 10 or 11 days. How they're leading the offense, how the offense responds to them, all these things. And what our goal is, obviously things can change, but our goal is to make a decision after that first scrimmage there on August 13th, and to let those guys know that, let the team know that, go ahead and announce it to you guys and let our fans know. And the biggest thing about that is I want whoever wins the starting job to have 3 full weeks to be seen as the starter, by the offense, and to work with that first group of offensive players and offensive line and running backs, the mesh and all that, and for our team to know. That's the toughest thing sometimes in these quarterback battles is your team. There's a lot of kind of questions and who's going to be our quarterback and all that. And we've kind of been there, done that, got the T-shirt, and now it's time to kind of move to that next level. And I believe, honestly believe we can't go wrong with either of these young men because of what they bring to the table. So that's our plan. And also told Brian, I want to let those guys, go ahead and talk to you guys before we get started at fall camp, and then we'll let those guys go and compete. And then the other message I gave them is, regardless whoever's named the starter for the BYU game, the other guy's got to be ready, right? And obviously injuries happen. Somebody goes out there, doesn't perform well, then the other guy gets to go in. And you can look at Gary's season last year at Baylor. He was doing really well. Then he got injured. The other quarterback came in and helped them win the conference championship game. And go back and look at my first 2 seasons here. We haven't gone through one season with one guy all the way through. And so I think those guys, they're going to compete. They're going to make each other better. And in the end, it's going to make our team better. But I firmly believe that we can win with either of those young men. And then I'm hoping that Trey Marsh and Byron Brown continue to develop and come on to give us some more added depth. So with all that, I'll open it up for any questions.
Jeff, can you elaborate on why that's the timeline you have in mind for quarterback, just because it's different from what you decided the last couple of years?
Yeah, I think the first part of that is I feel more confident in these 2 guys than I felt in the past. There's a lot more question marks on, Timmy was just an unproven true freshman, just got here out of high school. Cade really hadn't played in a year and a half. So I think that's part of it, but I feel like we're much further along. And then the other part of it is I just think that, we got a veteran group of offensive linemen. We got a lot of pieces back on offense. And I just feel like the cohesion, the chemistry, and all that stuff, it takes time for that to develop. We're going to do the best we can. That's one reason that we're going to let whoever the starter is for that day go all day with the ones, as opposed to sometimes you would switch it period by period. But I think we're going to let those guys, so each of them will have about 5 or 6 days going with the ones leading up to that scrimmage. And then whoever wins it will get 3 full weeks. And then the other piece is, I'm looking for leadership out of that position. That's difficult last year. Timmy being a true freshman, he's your first year, you're trying to figure out what you do. You don't have a lot of time to coordinate and tell everybody else what to do. But, for us to take that next step, we've got to have that quarterback stand up and be able to lead our offense. And that takes time as well. And when you're going through a battle, it's a little bit more difficult for the guys to kind of step up and be the leader because you're still going through that phase. And so, number one, is because of my confidence in both of those guys. And number 2, it's the need, I feel like, for our team to have 3 weeks to know who our starter is and really to eliminate that distraction and move forward on the things that are really going to be a difference maker in that first game.
Coach, can you elaborate on what you're seeing from each of those 2 quarterbacks that makes it a tough decision for you when that time comes?
Yeah, well, number one, I would say, what I started with, Timmy, I've seen maturity come from him in the offseason. Again, he got here last year, got thrown in the fire, and because he was the best that we had, and it was going to be a good experience for him, learning experience. But I think really having, going through one of those seasons, that next off season, it gets a little bit more serious. All of a sudden, you can start going to the next level as far as the details, learning the offense, ins and outs, protections. But I would say the biggest thing, just seeing the change in his, leadership, his work ethic this summer, his overall commitment. It's a full-time commitment to do what these guys have to do to take care of their bodies in the summer. So seeing that maturity out of him to go along with the talent that we know that he has, that we saw last year at times. And then with Gary, I think you can see all you need to see as far as on the film. You can go watch anything from last year. He had a really good season last year. And it's interesting because Baylor was a team that I used as an example to our team when we started the year in January. Baylor won 2 games. They went 2-7, I believe, in 2020. And then the next year, they went 12-2 and won the Big 12. I think they were picked 8th out of 10 in the Big 12 a year ago at this time and finished first. And so, and then also Gary was a big part of that, being their starting quarterback for the majority of those games. And then also just talking to the coaches that coached him and his maybe football knowledge, football IQ, and then also watching him in the film room. He's like a coach on the field, and you guys will be able to see that very quickly. You have a chance to talk to both of these young men today.
Jeff, you mentioned DJ earlier and how he got the attention of a couple of your veteran players. Can you elaborate on what he brings to the table, not only on the field, but those intangibles?
Yeah, DJ is physically, he's a very strong young man. He's got a great mindset. He loves football, and he's definitely going to be right there in that mix with both Greer and Boyles. And I think it's going to be good for both Greer and Boyles because they've had to play a lot of plays because maybe we haven't had the depth that we needed in the past. And also we're going from a 3 linebacker system to really a 2 linebacker system. And so it's going to allow, some of those guys. Also, Brian Norris is a guy that's really had an outstanding summer and doing well. But DJ's a talented player, has a big-time future. I think he's going to have a really strong impact on our team this year.
Obviously, quarterback's got to get somebody the ball, and I think one of the position battles that's kind of being overshadowed is this wide receiver, maybe 2 or 3. Obviously, Weaver had such a great year last year, but then you had a Joe. Latrell Williams comes back. You've got Jimmy in the slot, OD. Where does that all kind of stand right now?
Yeah, I like that. It's a very deep room. Chauffeur Brown is a talented young man that was out a good bit in the spring with some injuries. And, one name maybe y'all haven't had on your radar that I think will get on your radar pretty quickly is Daquan Stanley. He was a corner for us last year as a true freshman. He played receiver and corner and returner in high school. We made that move in the spring, and he can really run. He'll remind you in some ways of Jimmy Horn as far as his long speed and change of direction, those type of things. Also OD. Then Sincere Brown had an outstanding summer. He ended up running the fastest time, however they do the GPS. He was over 23 miles an hour, and some of the guys were giving a hard time that he put the thing on his the monitor on and then got on a scooter and rode over there to workouts or something. But he's had an outstanding summer and gained weight as well. So I feel very confident that we're going to have 3 deep at wideout, and that's taking time to really develop that room. Holden Willis is another guy that's come on and doing really good. Obviously, Sean Atkins, the guy we talked about. So that's going to be a deep room, but what I'm used to is rotating wideouts, and it helps you in the game, and then it helps you along the season. My best years there at Clemson, our best rooms, we were playing 8-9 guys a game. Obviously, the starters are going to get a little bit more than half of that. They're going to get about 60% of the snaps, 65-70% of the snaps, and then that last 30 to 35% gets split by the 2s and sometimes the 3s. So that'll be good. That group's worked extremely hard this summer, and I think overall our team speed at the wide receiver position has improved.
And then a quick follow-up on that. How has Latrell kind of looked? He's obviously shows he came back for I think the 7th year, and the ACL's kind of getting back to where it needs to be. What's he look like?
Yeah, he's attacked his rehab and all that really strong throughout the spring. He wanted to do more in the spring than we allowed him to do. He's one of those guys you got to kind of hold back because he's ready to get out there. So this fall camp will really be the first time that we've seen him